and welcome to the Property Wealth Podcast. Today, we're diving into a really exciting topic, green building upgrades. You know, things like energy efficiency that can actually help you achieve higher rents.
Absolutely, Sarah. It's such an important area for investors to consider, especially if you're looking to maximize your returns while also being environmentally conscious.
Right? It's a win-win. We'll talk about how these upgrades not only benefit the environment, but also attract tenants who are willing to pay a premium for energy-efficient living spaces.
And let's not forget about the long-term cost savings for property owners, which can add up significantly over time. We'll also cover some practical upgrades that are not just effective, but also feasible for many investors.
Exactly. We'll share some real-life examples too, so you can see how these ideas translate into actual investments. Plus, we'll touch on some common misconceptions about green upgrades.
Yeah, I think a lot of people might feel overwhelmed by the idea of going green, but it doesn't have to be complicated or expensive.
Well said, Mike. So whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, stick around. You might just find some inspiration to take your property strategy to the next level.
Let's jump right in and explore how energy efficiency can really transform your investment properties. So Sarah, when we talk about energy efficiency upgrades, it's not just about being eco-friendly. It's really about financial security, especially for those of us over 40.
Absolutely. The reality is, we're all thinking about retirement and how to make our money work for us, right?
Exactly. And with inflation being what it is these days, those who invest in energy-efficient properties can potentially shield themselves from rising costs. Energy bills are just one thing that can really eat into returns if you're not careful.
Right, and I've seen so many people, they get really anxious about their retirement plans. They worry about having enough saved up. But investing in properties that have these green upgrades can actually provide a buffer against inflation, can't it?
Yeah, and let me give you a real-life example. I had a client, let's call him Tom. He was in his late 50s, and he owned a few rental properties. He started to notice that his tenants were becoming more interested in energy efficiency. Things like solar panels and high-efficiency appliances.
That makes sense. Who wouldn't want to save on their energy bills?
Exactly. So Tom decided to make some upgrades. He installed LED lighting, improved insulation, and added energy-efficient windows. His properties not only stood out on the market, but he also raised the rent by about 15% after those upgrades.
Wow, that's significant. So not only did he increase the value of his properties, but he also attracted better tenants who were willing to pay more for those features.
Right? And it's not just about the immediate financial return. It's also about long-term stability. Tenants who care about energy efficiency tend to stay longer, which means less turnover and more consistent income.
That's a great point. And for someone like Tom, who's looking toward retirement, that kind of stability is invaluable.
It is. And let's not forget that as we age, it's important to create a safety net for our families too, When we think about wealth transfer, properties with energy upgrades are often worth more, so they can provide a better inheritance for our kids.
Right. Imagine passing down a property that not only has physical value, but also generates income. It's a great legacy to leave behind.
Absolutely. I had another client, Lisa, who was concerned about what she'd leave her children. She decided to invest in a multi-family unit that had been retrofitted for energy efficiency. The property cash flowed nicely, and she was able to save up for her kids' college funds while also increasing her own financial security.
That's inspiring. And it really shows how investing in energy-efficient properties can benefit not just the investor, but the whole family.
Exactly. And with the current economic trends, we're seeing a shift toward more sustainable living. Younger renters especially are actively seeking out green features. They're willing to pay a premium for properties that align with their values.
So it's really a win-win situation. You're meeting market demand while also securing your financial future. But for those over 40 looking to dive into this, it might feel a bit intimidating, right?
It can be, sure, but that's why starting with small upgrades can be effective. You don't have to do everything at once. Maybe start with energy-efficient lighting or smart thermostats. Those can be relatively inexpensive and see a quick return.
That's a practical approach. And it's also about educating yourself on what upgrades provide the best return. I've heard that energy audits can be really helpful in pinpointing what's most effective.
Yes, an energy audit can identify potential savings and help prioritize which upgrades to tackle first. It's like having a roadmap for your investments. And often, you can find programs that help offset some of those costs.
That's a great tip. And when you consider the long-term savings on utility bills, it starts to make a lot of sense financially.
Right? And think about the emotional aspect too. Knowing that you have a property that's efficient and sustainable can give you peace of mind. In times of economic uncertainty, that's really valuable.
Yeah, it's about feeling secure in your investments. And when your tenants are happy, it creates a more positive environment all around.
Exactly. And as we're talking about this, it's clear that energy efficiency isn't just a trend. It's becoming a necessity in real estate. The market is shifting, and those who adapt will be better positioned for the future.
For sure. And it's encouraging to think that by making these changes now, you're not just enhancing your properties, but also preparing for whatever the future holds.
Well said. So as we move into discussing some core strategies for implementing these upgrades, let's explore some actionable steps that listeners can take today to start reaping the benefits. So let's dive into some core strategies, for implementing green building upgrades that not only boost energy efficiency, but can also help justify higher rents.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds great when we talk about energy efficiency, but what's the first step, Mike? Where do we even begin?
Well, a good starting point is to assess the current energy performance of your property. You can do this by getting an energy audit done. It'll highlight areas where you're losing energy, like old windows or inadequate insulation.
Right, that makes sense. And once you have that information, what are some easy upgrades to start with?
One of the most impactful upgrades is improving insulation. If you're in an older building, those walls might be leaking heat, just like a sieve. Adding insulation can significantly reduce heating and cooling costs.
So, if I'm understanding this correctly, better insulation can lead to lower utility bills for tenants, which is attractive for them, right?
Exactly. And when you can show potential tenants that their utility costs will be lower, it makes your property more appealing. You can even factor that into your rental price, making it easier to justify higher rents.
Got it. What about windows? I've heard that upgrading to energy-efficient windows can be a game changer.
Yes, definitely. Replacing single-pane windows with double or triple-pane ones can reduce energy loss dramatically. It's a bit of an investment up front, but the return on investment can be substantial, especially in regions with extreme temperatures.
Can you break that down a bit? Like, what kind of returns are we talking about?
Sure. Let's say you replace the windows in a 3-bedroom rental property. The cost might be around $10,000 initially, but if that upgrade saves you about $200 a year in energy costs, you're looking at a payback period of around 8 years. After that, it's basically profit.
That's pretty compelling. And I suppose you can also market those upgrades to potential tenants as part of your value proposition.
Exactly. When you're advertising the property, you can highlight energy-efficient features. It's all about creating a narrative that resonates with tenants who are environmentally conscious or simply want to save money.
What about appliances? Should landlords consider upgrading to energy-efficient models?
Oh, for sure. Energy Star-rated appliances use significantly less energy. You can sometimes even negotiate a small increase in rent after you've upgraded to these models. Plus, tenants love the convenience of modern appliances, which can make your property stand out.
So it's about balancing the cost of these upgrades with the potential for increased rent. Is there a rule of thumb for evaluating deals like this?
Definitely. One rule of thumb you might hear about is the 1% rule. It suggests that your monthly rent should be about 1% of the purchase price of the property. If you invest in energy upgrades, your property could command a higher rent, which helps you stay in line with that rule.
That makes sense. But what if a property doesn't meet that 1% rule after upgrades? How should investors think about that?
Well, that's where the 50% rule comes into play. This rule suggests that about 50% of your rental income will go toward operating expenses. So even if the rent doesn't hit that 1% target, you can still evaluate based on your cash flow after considering those upgrades.
Interesting. So we can still make a deal work, even if it doesn't meet that initial target, as long as we're looking at the bigger picture?
Exactly. And don't forget about cap rates. Capitalization rates can help you evaluate whether a property is a good investment. You calculate it by dividing the net operating income by the property price. If you can increase your net operating income through energy-efficient upgrades, your cap rate improves.
So if I bought a property for $200,000 and it generates $20,000 in net income, that gives me a cap rate of 10%. If I make upgrades that increase my net income to $30,000, then my cap rate jumps to 15%. That's a big deal.
Right. And that's why energy upgrades are not just about keeping up with trends. They're about enhancing the overall value of your investment. Now, when deciding on financing for these upgrades, there are several options you might consider.
Like what?
Well, one option is to look for green financing programs. Many lenders offer favorable terms for energy-efficient projects, which can help reduce your initial costs. Additionally, you might find local or state incentives for green upgrades, like tax credits or rebates.
Wow, that could really help offset some of the initial expenses. And what about property types? Are some buildings better suited for these upgrades than others?
Great question. Older buildings, while often needing more work, can benefit the most from these upgrades. Newer constructions usually already have some energy-efficient features, but retrofitting an old property can often yield higher returns.
So if you're looking at a fixer-upper, it might be worth doing the energy upgrades as part of the renovation process.
Exactly. Just make sure to factor those costs into your overall budget and timeline, and remember, keep your tenants' needs in mind. They'll appreciate a comfortable, energy-efficient living space.
That's such good advice, but I'm curious, are there common pitfalls that investors should watch out for when making these upgrades?
Oh, definitely. One major pitfall is underestimating the cost and time for these upgrades. It's easy to think, I can just replace these windows, but you need to account for labor, permits, and potential delays. It can add up quickly.
That's a great point. So managing expectations is key, right?
Exactly. And another pitfall is not doing your research on what upgrades will actually yield returns in your specific market. Not all upgrades are created equal, and what works in one area might not work in another.
I see. So it's crucial to know your local market dynamics before diving in.
Absolutely. You want your investments to align with what tenants are looking for in your area.
Well, this has been super insightful. I feel like I have a much clearer picture of how to approach green building upgrades for better energy efficiency and higher rents.
So, one of the big pitfalls I see with investors, especially those who are newer to the game, is over-leveraging. It can feel really tempting to maximize your borrowing power to get the biggest property you can.
Right? Like they think, the more I borrow, the more I can earn. But that can backfire, can't it?
Exactly. I remember one client, let's call him Tom. He bought a multi-family unit, thinking he could handle the mortgage payments with the rental income. But he underestimated the costs, Tenants moved out, and suddenly he was stuck covering a hefty mortgage without that rental income.
Ouch, that must have been stressful for him. So, what happened next?
Well, he had to dip into his savings, which was not what he planned at all. It taught him, and hopefully others, to always factor in potential vacancies and maintenance costs when calculating cash flow.
Yeah, that's so important. Speaking of cash flow, I think a lot of people ignore it entirely. They get so caught up in the excitement of the property itself.
Absolutely. Cash flow is king, right? I had another client, let's call her Lisa. She purchased a property because it had a beautiful view and was in a great neighborhood, but she didn't really analyze the numbers closely. The rent she could charge barely covered her expenses, and she didn't account for the property taxes going up.
That's tough. So what did she do?
Well, she had to sell it at a loss after just a year. If she had focused on the cash flow from the start, she could have made a much more informed decision. It's all about knowing your numbers.
It sounds like doing the math beforehand can save a lot of heartache later on.
For sure. And then there's the issue of bad tenants. It's such a critical part of property management. I've seen investors rush to fill a vacancy just to avoid losing rental income.
Right, and that can lead to all sorts of problems, can't it?
Definitely. I had a colleague who was eager to get a unit rented out. He accepted a tenant without doing a thorough background check, and, well, it turned into a nightmare. Late payments, property damage. all because he prioritized speed over quality.
Wow, that's a hard lesson to learn. So what should investors do to avoid that?
First off, always do your due diligence. Check references, credit history, the full works, and trust your instincts. If something feels off, it probably is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people overlook their gut feeling in these situations.
Exactly, and I think that's where timing the market comes into play too. Investors often think they can time the market perfectly, waiting for that ideal moment to buy.
I've definitely heard that before. But isn't that just a recipe for disappointment?
It really can be. I had someone who spent months waiting for prices to drop. While he waited, the properties he was interested in were just getting more expensive. Plus, he lost out on potential rental income.
So it's kind of like you need to be proactive, right?
Yes, for sure. It's about finding a good deal that makes sense for you, not trying to predict the market.
That leads us to hidden costs. I think a lot of new investors see a property's price, and that's it. They forget about things like closing costs, maintenance, and insurance.
Absolutely. Those hidden costs can sneak up on you. I had a client, let's say her name is Rachel. She bought a property thinking she had a solid budget, but she didn't account for the roof needing to be replaced shortly after.
Oh no, that's a big expense.
It really is, and it took a huge chunk out of her cash reserves. If she'd done a deeper analysis on potential repairs and maintenance, she could have either negotiated a better price or set aside more funds in her budget.
So it's all about planning and being realistic, isn't it?
Exactly, and I think the key takeaway here is to, be prepared and do your homework. Look for red flags early in the process. If a deal seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah, that's a good point. Trust your instincts and really dig into the details.
Right, and always have a contingency plan. Whether that's an emergency fund for unexpected repairs or having a backup plan for managing cash flow, it's all part of being a smart investor.
So what would you say are the next steps for someone who might be worried about these pitfalls?
Well, first, I'd suggest taking a step back and evaluating your current situation. Are you over-leveraged? Do you have enough cash flow? Then, maybe look into creating a detailed budget for your investment properties.
That makes sense. And maybe connect with a mentor or a real estate advisor who can help guide you through the process?
Yes, definitely. Having someone experienced can really help you navigate those tricky waters. And don't be afraid to ask questions.
I think that's key. The more informed you are, the better decisions you can make.
Exactly. So whether it's seeking advice, doing thorough research, or simply trusting your gut, taking those proactive steps can really set you up for success in the long run.
Absolutely, Mike. It's all about being savvy and prepared.
Well said, Sarah. All right, so now that we've explored the benefits of green building upgrades, let's talk about some immediate steps you can take, right now, to start implementing these ideas.
Yeah, definitely. It can feel overwhelming, but it's all about taking those first small steps, right?
Exactly. So one of the first things I'd recommend is to take a good look at your properties and identify any energy-saving opportunities. You don't have to tackle everything at once. Maybe start with one upgrade, like installing energy-efficient lighting or ceiling drafts.
That's a great point. And if someone wants to dig deeper into the numbers, tools like the Bigger Pockets calculator can be really helpful, right?
Absolutely. The Bigger Pockets calculator is fantastic for analyzing potential cash flow, and it can help you see how those upgrades could impact your bottom line. Plus, you can compare the cost of energy-efficient upgrades against traditional options.
And don't forget about using Rentometer to check what similar properties are getting for rent in your area. That way, you can estimate how much more you could charge after making those upgrades.
Right. Knowing your market is key. You might also want to check out local MLS Access for up-to-date listings. It can provide insights into what features are attracting tenants and what rents are going for.
Yeah, that's super useful. And for those who are more visual learners, there are some really good apps out there like Deal Check. You can input your property details and see projections on cash flow, which can include your potential energy-saving upgrades.
Exactly. And if you're looking for inspiration or tips on sustainable investing, I'd recommend checking out some books. The Green Building Bible is a solid resource for understanding the fundamentals of sustainable upgrades.
Oh, I love that one. And for those who prefer podcasts, Sustainable Real Estate is a great listen. They dive into practical strategies for eco-friendly investments.
Right, and those resources can really help you shift your mindset. Another habit to consider is analyzing one deal each week. Just set aside some time to look at properties that interest you and think about how you could enhance them with green upgrades.
I love that idea. And joining a local real estate meetup can also provide you with valuable insights and support. You never know who you might meet who's already making strides in green building.
Yes, networking is so important. Sharing experiences and learning from others can really accelerate your growth. It's about building that community around sustainable investing.
Absolutely. And for those just starting out, even small actions like researching local incentives for energy-efficient upgrades can be a game changer. Many states and municipalities offer rebates or tax credits that can offset costs.
Right. And don't underestimate the power of online forums. Engaging in discussions on platforms like BiggerPockets can expose you to a wealth of knowledge from other investors who are implementing these strategies.
And remember, it's all about starting where you are. You don't have to have it all figured out to begin. Just take that first step, whether it's reading a book, attending a meetup, or even just talking to a contractor about potential upgrades.
Well said. And even if you're not ready to make any upgrades yet, just educating yourself on energy efficiency can lay the groundwork for future decisions.
Definitely. So those are some practical first steps. Now let's bring this all together.
Well, Sarah, as we wrap up, I think it's important to highlight a few key takeaways from our discussion on green building upgrades.
Absolutely. One big takeaway is that investing in energy-efficient features can really boost your property's appeal and, increase the rent you can charge.
Right. And I'd say another point is that these upgrades can lead to significant savings on utility bills, which not only benefits tenants, but also enhances your bottom line as an investor.
And let's not forget about the environmental impact. It's a win-win. When you make your properties more sustainable, you're contributing to a healthier planet.
For sure. Plus, a lot of these upgrades can qualify for tax incentives or grants, which is a nice bonus for investors looking to maximize their returns.
Exactly. So it's really about thinking long-term and not just about immediate cash flow. Building that kind of sustainable wealth is key.
And speaking of building wealth, it's never too late to start your journey in real estate. Whether you're 40 or beyond, you can create a solid investment strategy that works for you.
Definitely. So if you found value in today's episode, we'd love for you to like and subscribe. And hey, if you have questions or your biggest takeaway, drop it in the comments.
And share this episode with someone you know who's over 40 and interested in property investing. It could really help them get started on their wealth building journey.
Next time, we'll dive into something exciting. Solar panel rentals as a passive income add-on.
Yeah, it's going to be a great discussion, exploring how solar can add value to your portfolio.
We can't wait to share that with you.
Until then, take care and happy investing.
Bye for now.